Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of Friends of Faith. My name is Mother Gloria Therese, and I am one of the Carmelite Sisters of the Most Sacred Heart of Los Angeles. There are 120 of us, 24 to 95 years old. We're in 11 locations throughout the United States. And what I'd really like to do for our time together is look at what we would call the Eucharistic dialogue. And what I want to do is take a particular scripture from John chapter 4, and we're going to look at that Eucharistic dialogue as you would hear Bishop Sheen say, heart speaks to heart, or in Latin, cor ad cor loquitur. This dialogue of the heart, what does that mean in Eucharistic adoration? So we're going to take John chapter 4 to walk through that. I'll give you a little bit of teaching on St. Therese of Avila and what she would teach about prayer. And then lastly, I want to share my own personal testimony with you. All right, so we're going to get started with John chapter 4 of that Eucharistic dialogue. We're going to look at the Samaritan woman who shows up at the well when the Lord was tired. He sat down at the well. And what happens first is he asks her for a drink. Now, think about your own prayer. When we go to prayer, we kind of want something from the Lord. But in this situation, he's asking her because he thirsts for her presence. And she's come to him. She has no clue what's going to happen, but she's gone to the well like she usually does. And maybe it's a part of our life, ordinary adoration, going to the Lord in prayer. But this is different because now that she has shown up and he's present to her and he's asked her for a drink, the first thing she does is a rebuttal. How is it that you're talking to me? And then she goes on to recognize that, well, you have no bucket. How are we going to get this well, that's water that's deep? St. Therese of Avila talks about that first level of prayer being one where we have to draw water from the well. It's some hard work that we're doing. And in this situation, the woman is recognizing there's things that are needed here that he doesn't even have. But go to the well anyway. So she's there. And the dialogue goes on. So let's keep walking through this scripture. She recognizes that after Jesus tells her, if you only knew the gift of God and who it is that's asking you for a drink, you would be asking him. So to see how this turn of dialogue happens, where he's drawing her in deeper. And then he goes on to say that if I give you water, it will become a spring within you, which St. Therese of Avila talks about. This is what we would call the third water of prayer, where the spring is of ease to get water. All you have to do is bend down and the water is there for you to drink. So the Lord's giving her an invitation. Will you let me draw you deeper into prayer? Like, it's not about you just getting the bucket and drawing up water. It's more about letting me do something for you. I want to go on then to John 15, because then she says, give me a drink. So she's taken the invitation to enter into this dialogue. And then what does she do next? She goes to her head. Instead of, like, he's drawing her into a deeper relationship, self-knowledge, he knows her. But what does she do? She starts to talk about worship, and she said, I've heard that you worship on this mountain, and I understand that in Jerusalem, that's the place where you should really be worshiping. So she goes right to her head. And then the Lord continues to stay with her. He doesn't say, I'll talk to you another time. He tells her that he wants to stay in relationship with her, to go into a deeper place. And she says, I know when the Messiah comes, he will explain everything. What does the Lord do? It's right in that moment where she's still kind of trying to stay on an intellectual level, that he says to her, "That is who I am, I who speak to you." So he revealed himself to the woman who went to the well, to the woman who didn't want to talk about her story, but he engaged the story. And he invited her in. So St. Teresa would talk about, that's like the rain that falls from the sky. That is pure gift. The Lord revealed himself to her. Right, so we've talked a little bit about St. Teresa of Avila's understanding of the levels of prayer. We've used the Samaritan woman as a beautiful example of what it means to have a Eucharistic dialogue with the presence of Jesus. And lastly, I'd like to just share my own story. I could give you many examples of my 34 years as a Carmelite, the profound experiences we've had with many, many people, whether it's in our retreat apostolate or our children in our schools or our families who've come back to the faith through Eucharistic adoration, or in healthcare, being with people in their last moments of life and the profound gift of Jesus in the Eucharist in those moments. What I wanted to just share with you is my own brief story. I was a college graduate from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul. I was working. I had just become a secular order Carmelite. I had planned on getting married, have a family. My career was going to be a part of all of this, and I was going to be a Carmelite as a layperson. And in the midst of that dream, obviously I was going to the well because I was a Carmelite layperson. And this group that I was a part of were many young adults, retired couples, family couples that just we all became very close knit. But it was in that Eucharistic adoration every month that when I would go to the well, I started to notice that there was something that the Lord was trying to dialogue about. And there was one time in our secular order Carmelite adoration, and now remember I told you my path was to get married, have a family. I'm in adoration, and a dialogue took place that everything else just paled. And in that moment, the Lord just said to me, "What do you want?" And I said, "Lord, I want to get married and have a family." And there was this pause. And you know that a woman kind of waits for the proposal. And it was in Eucharistic adoration, in that dialogue, cor ad cor loquitur, that the Lord, in the depths of my heart, this living water, he said to me, "Will you be my bride? And will you be a spiritual mother to the children that I send to you?" Wow. We should never underestimate the dialogue that the Lord wants to have in our life. Like, he was able to draw me to radically follow him in the way that he had called me. There's many other stories that may not be as a radical call to leave everything to follow Christ, but there are ways that he wants to draw us into this deeper dialogue, to let go so that we can radically love him in the way that he intended us to love him. And I guarantee you, life will flourish like you've never seen if you just allow yourself to be in dialogue. So I just invite you to consider that Eucharistic dialogue that you have in your life. What does it mean to go to the well? What does it mean to draw that water? What does it mean to just wait for the Lord to send rain? How much do we trust him that he longs to reveal himself to you? He longs to do that. So I pray that you'll be open to it, and ask St. Teresa of Avila to be your powerful intercessor to stay close to the Lord in the Eucharist. He has a whole dialogue awaiting for you. God bless you.